So I thought I'd do a quick update on brewery tech, because I've been making lots of adjustments. I consider this the prototype, which is why it's a little bit of a rat's nest, but it's kind of, proof of concept and not the final incarnation of what this will be. But anyway, I'll give you a sort of guided tour. So this is a Raspberry Pi, and this on top of it is a 8 probe temperature sensor, which goes out to different PT100 temperature probes. There we got some power distribution for different things like chillers, pumps, and so on. And the back board there is a relay board. So this is actually designed for robotics. So it's quite a good relay board. It has 8 relays. They do something like up to 5 amps, 240 volts. Powered by a 5-volt power line there, but it's controlled by the Raspberry Pi, which is quite good. And then at the back there, that green LED is an analog to digital converter for things like analog sensors. So that actually reads off to pressure transducers for pressure control. And then the little circuit you can see there is just a 5-volt power distribution point, because obviously running a few different things off 5 volts here, so I need to distribute that power around. So I'll give you a bit more of a sense. You can hear it doing things. So we've got 12 volts in here. So the 12-volt line is for my SS Brew heater and pump. So I can control that with this box instead. And then underneath there is a 5-volt line which powers the Raspberry Pi and the different boards. And then over here we have AC in going through those distribution points, which power the AC, different things that run off AC. So obviously you don't want to be running this with the lid off too much, but I'll put the lid back on in a minute. So here we've got 12 volts out for the heater and the pump, and then a sort of temporary way of connecting AC things to this. So like I said, this is a prototype. You wouldn't want to use this as your final thing, because there are some, it could be made a bit safer and various things like that. So these connect to different AC controlled devices. So that includes things like, so here's the glycol chiller. That's now controlled by this box. So there's a power, this controls a relay. So this doesn't power the AC chiller itself. It switches a relay on and off that's inside the chiller, so it connects through there, and then there's a relay that isolates both the neutral and live of the normal power to the chiller, glycol chiller. So that's quite nice. So I can now control the glycol chiller using the Raspberry Pi, and this temperature probe, which I'll finalize, goes inside, measures the temperature of the glycol. And then I've got 2 pumps in there. Just a bit of condensation got on this, which is why it's got a bit moldy. 2 pumps, so the pumps pump cold out on these cold lines into whatever you've got connected. At the minute, I have a dark lager in the SS Brew that's being controlled by this system. So here is a temperature probe that records the temperature of the contents of the fermenter, and that connects through these. So these are like breakout things for temperature probes. So they're a bit they're not really how you would want to finally do this either, really. Okay, so I mean, it's not unsafe, the the wiring is fine, but it's not how you want to kind of deploy this, you know, in a final version. I'll sort of tidy it up a bit more and perhaps put it on DIN rails, because I think everything could be connected to DIN rails potentially. That's a homemade pressure sensor and solenoid, so that's a tri-clamp version that I made. And you can, the sensor is on the other side. There's the sensor. So that reads the pressure inside a fermenter, and then you can activate this solenoid valve and release some of the pressure if you need to. And then there's another version of that which just connects via John Guest gas lines, and that's actually what's connected to the top of here. So the SS Brewtech conicals okay up to, I think, 1 psi. So I think I've set this at 2 actually, and that's quite nice because you can then make sure you don't get any oxygen going into your fermenter. So that'll just regulate that at 2 psi. So yeah, so this is like version 0.1, and I intend to kind of make this a little bit more like, less like a rat's nest and more of kind of what you'd want to run it as. But I'll get the lid on before I do anything that I shouldn't do with electricity. The sensors, obviously, these are harmless. Different temperature sensors, and it also actually measures the temperature of my Keezer, which is underneath this. So yeah, I thought that was quite an interesting work in progress technology project. If you do something like this, make sure you're careful around electrics. This obviously can be hazardous. So if you're not sure what you're doing, don't do it. I can show you the interface. So this is the interface that I wrote. It's written in Python, works off a thing called Flask, which if you're familiar with Python, is a way of running web apps basically. So if I scroll to the top, I'm going to neaten this up as well, but you can see it's reading temperature of the kegerator, ambient temperature of the garage, which is quite high, so it's quite warm today. Chiller is being controlled. Chiller temperature is currently at 6 degrees. The target tracks below the lowest fermentation temperature, so you don't have to spend a lot of energy chilling your glycol down to like -1 if you don't need to. The dark lager's been put in what is called fermenter 2. Sorry, just try not to scroll past. I'm fermenting at around 10 degrees. It's currently at 10.5, and it controls within half a degree. So the cooling pump will, yeah, there you go. Just literally just switched on then. So that'll now run glycol through that fermenter using the Brewtech pump. See the target PSI there. I've started looking at how to use the pressure release as a measure of fermentation activity, which is quite fun as well. Other things it can do, cold crushing, so you can give it a target temperature that you want to cold crush to, and then the number of degrees you want to drop per day. You can also do a slow rise, which is a bit like a way of simulating, say you want to pitch low, but let the fermentation vessel's temperature rise slowly to a final fermentation temperature. You can kind of emulate that using a bit more control, if that's something that's interesting to do when the ambient temperature wouldn't help you. And then at the bottom, I've been able to connect this using Bluetooth on the Raspberry Pi to wrapped pills. So you can add, or I haven't done it for this one. It basically wasn't quite ready at the point that I started fermenting this lager. So there's no wrapped in there, but you can add a wrapped, and then you'd get gravity and so on. So pretty simple. I did this for fun, basically. So it's just something out of my own interest. There are sort of not commercial exactly, but there is a Raspberry Pi brewing tool that what's it called, Brew blocks, which does the same thing essentially. So yeah, but I decided to just do it myself because I quite like doing this kind of thing. Excuse the ice cream van, that's quite obnoxious. So yeah, quite pleased with it really. As a proof of concept, it works really well, and of course once you've put down a proof of concept, you then get to spend lots of time doing the final version, which is what I'll start planning now. Okay, so that was a quick update. Nice merging of tech and brewing interests, and I shall leave you with a picture of the wiring rat's nest, which isn't as bad as it looks. But yeah, like I said, if you're not comfortable doing electricity things, then maybe be a bit careful doing this kind of project. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.